Yo, yo, yo! What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 71 of Climbing the Ladder. I'm your host, ChanmanV, and got a great show today. I'm by myself, though. You can notice that I don't got co-hosts today. It's been a long time since I've done a solo show, but we got a good stuff today. We got the Day 9 TV guys, as you can see here, but we're going to be talking about IEM New York City that just concluded this past weekend. Just a little bit of WCS news that I figured it'd be good to touch up on, and then we'll get the lowdown on artillery games and what these guys are doing with them, and then talking a little bit about game design, maybe what makes a good strategy game these days. And then the new season of After Hours Gaming League is starting up really soon, so Eric and Damen will hop on a little bit later to give us the lowdown and all the details. And we'll finish it off with Q&A like we always do. Post your questions here on this Reddit thread. Let me post it in the stream chat. And we'll get to as many questions as we can at the end. I know you guys always have some great questions, so always looking forward to that. But let me introduce my esteemed guests today. We've got Mr. CEO of Day 9 TV, host, caster, personality, comedian, everything you can think of. We got Day 9, Mr. Sean Plott. What's going on, buddy?
I like being called CEO because essentially that means I'm in charge of decisions of myself.
That's true.
I'm sure as any small business owner knows that titles only kind of have meaning because you sort of like do all sorts of things, but Eric is the COO, which means that he does the hard things, so...
And leading into that intro, COO and co-founder, Mr. Eric Burkhart. What's up, buddy?
Hey, everyone.
All right. So, okay, man, let's just jump into some topics. You guys watch IEM New York City at all this weekend? Yeah. Good stuff,
man. Naniwa with a sick run. And, it like, for me, the tournament almost had like a nostalgic feel because we don't have the one weekend bash tournaments so much anymore. So we got to see a bunch of superstars going at it. And per usual, Naniwa was like the last guy standing.
That's true. I mean, it was really, I hate to put it this way, but it did feel like a Euro tournament in the U.S., because it was IEM, just that feel. And then Naniwa making a deep run, a Euro tournament, right? So they had some really great numbers, mostly, I think, because Naniwa made such a good run, but some great games. I mean, Life obviously won it. He was, for spoilers, if you guys didn't watch the VODs, Life.
That's so dirty. Just by the way, spoilers.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. What's the limit for spoilers? You think days after?
I'm gonna go with 2. I think after 2 days you're safe. So I think that you're just inside the right margin. It's perfect.
All right. Yeah, but anyways, yeah. So Life obviously won the tournament, but again, Naniwa, the series with Naniwa and Hyun was, I think, the highlight of the tournament for me, given that Naniwa was down 0-2 and then he came back to win 3-2. That was some good stuff. Fixing your cam real quick.
Yeah, I'm turning it off. I'm turning it on. Do you like my bird with arms?
There we go. But yeah, so overall, the tournament went well, but I really wanted to just talk about just having IEM back at Comic-Con and just, I guess, the impact or the amount of exposure, I guess, esports to a demographic like that. What do you think about that? Because I know you casted at an IEM at a Comic-Con about a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the biggest thing to me is that esports still doesn't have the established template business model, per se. I mean, certainly you have Riot or WCS that's like supported by the publisher, and that makes sense. But then when you think about an organization like IEM that is not in control of any particular game or anything like that, what's the best venue for them? And I think that like the conventions like that they have with Gamescom, CeBIT, God, that was hard to recall. Comic-Con, it's a really smart way to bring a lot of people there. And it's nice because you just get like the foot traffic and costumes.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, from the business model perspective, I'm still really interested what sorts of formats work and what don't. And I think IEM Comic-Con is a really great example of a format that really works. It's not like trying to just have a single one-day blowout event, and the tournament is the only event. You're trying to draw people there. Because as amazing as like the LCS finals are, and as WCS BlizzCon is going to be, there's still no clear template for non-publisher organizers to follow. But I think ESL and IEM do really, really good templates that you can look up to.
Yeah, and it's like you said, with the LCS finals and that sort of thing. I mean, the people that are going to go to that are the people that are already already captivated by the game. So, something like Gamescom is really about just growing and exposing esports and StarCraft 2 to more folks. But definitely love even just from an entertainment factor from a viewer at home, just having the costumes, all the crowd being dressed in different costumes, and the casters and the players all dressing up. That's a really cool thing. It adds a lot of character to the event itself.
Yeah, dude, with Carmack always doing something silly. The fact that people are dressing up in costumes, so it's like themed silliness. It's perfect.
Dude, I wanted to see Naniwan dressed as Thor. I kept tweeting Carmack to buy him a Thor outfit because that would have made my day, I think.
Oh my god, have like an inflatable hammer.
Exactly, right? Oh my god, he would never do that. Naniwan would never ever do that. But yeah, anyway, so that's good stuff. The ESL team did a great job. I see Nathanius in the chat. Nathanius did a great job too. It's always great.
Dude, I'm Nathanius is such a hero. Like having just been grinding the casting forever, and then just slips right into the majors. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely very rare these days, and you're kind of seeing it with two people that were at IEM. Nathanius being one of them, and then now Sue as a host too. Sue Lee as a host, Smix. Yeah. We're starting to see her at more events too, so that's really really cool. Giving folks a shot, we're always about that in the community.
Yeah.
But okay, so moving on, I wanted to talk a little bit about WCS, and Kim Fan did a Q&A that was posted yesterday. And it's here. Let me show folks on stream. And a little bit of, it's about WCS 2014. And I think a lot of folks were really anticipating this post being the details for next year. And it didn't quite turn out to be that. It was still a little bit more, we're still getting feedback. We're still trying to figure out what to do. But one of the big points that just jumped out to me was they were talking about removing the season finals for each of the 3 seasons leading up to BlizzCon. What do you think of that, and what are some other points maybe you saw in this post?
For me, I feel like the biggest. I read a lot of what you were talking about. People going, "Oh, but this isn't the details yet. Where are the details?" and that sort of thing. But I think that probably historically the biggest struggle that Blizzard had is keeping the open communication lines with the community. It's, if you think back 2 years ago even, it was very much so complete silence, and then a huge complete announcement, and then complete silence, and then a huge complete announcement. So I'm much more a fan of this sort of newer approach, which is like, hey, we're not there yet. We just want to let everyone know sort of where we're head's at. So for me, when I read it, I was happy that it had identified, or the release had identified what all the real boundaries were, what all the real problems were, and what everyone's needs were.
Yeah.
And and this sort of post is great, assuming that there's the reasonable follow-up post that says, here's what's actually going to happen, which right. I think it would be kind of hard not to, but I think that I almost feel bad for the sort of weird position that Blizzard's in with making an announcement like that, because there truly was not a lot of strong content. Like, here's what's exactly going to go down, and that's what people are really craving right now. But I think it's just a sort of victim of what their history has been. Because if they had had a history of saying, hey guys, here's some problems, here's what we're considering, and then a few weeks later, hey guys, we're finalizing some details, we want to let you know, here's some stuff that's set in stone, then a few weeks later, here's the full plan, and everyone's like, yeah! Then when something like this comes out, everyone would be sort of trained to be excited because they know what this sort of portends. Yeah.
One thing that, again, like you were talking about, just being able, just communicating, just being a little bit more transparent. That's absolutely great. And you can't complain about them trying to get as much feedback as possible before making a decision too, because I think that was an issue with the first time around. So, so them taking their time, still trying to decide all the details for 2014. I think we can be a little bit more patient as a community. Maybe by BlizzCon we'll find out some concrete details.
But I mean, it's like the most complicated situation ever.
Oh gosh,
Because
yeah.
I mean, esports has traditionally always been one weekend blowout tournaments.
Hmm.
And most of the time we hear about this from Chinese players who just struggle to get any visa to leave their country at all. Um, but for many non-Chinese players, getting visas works for like really small, temporary, one-shot weekend tournaments. But then when you start to have like league structures and things
Hmm.
like that, it becomes quite difficult. I mean, especially with like League of Legends, it was that big breakthrough when they said, "Hey, we're actually starting to be able to get visas for people to show up." I mean, I think that for many people who aren't involved in the industry, it's one of those like, "Oh, that's cool. That's like a good marketing piece." But in reality, that's like a huge logistic hurdle. Like, holy shit, we can actually get visas for the players. That means we can actually have non-American players living in America for extended periods of time that actually makes sense. I mean, it's just really weird. The StarCraft ecosystem grew up out of weekend-long bash
Hmm.
tournaments, and now it's transitioning to a league structure, and that transition is rife with lots of problems.
Do you like that transition?
Um, I like league structures more.
Really?
Obviously,
Okay.
your question was about transitions, but
No, no. It was more about whether you like more of a tournament to tournament type of structure versus a league. That was
well,
the main reason for it. Yeah.
yeah, I gotta say I like league structures a lot more. Just generally speaking. I mean, I grew up in Brood War, where
Yeah.
I'm got my league structures all day,
Yeah.
OSL and
That's true.
MSL.
That's true.
I think it's a sort of from for me as a viewer, I like that feeling of planning. I like that feeling of, oh, dude, semifinal number one's on Tuesday, semifinal number one's on Friday.
Yeah.
I get to spend some time thinking and mulling over who I want to win. I get to chat about it. I get to think about it at school. I get to say to my friends, hey, you doing anything Tuesday night? Because semifinal number one's happening. And
Hmm.
then all of a sudden, when that semifinalist wins, then semifinal number two, that's 3 days away, wow, everyone gets to sort of plan out and talk about who would be better for the current finalists to go up against. And there's like so much more opportunity to just get that hype and get that anticipation. And that's been, I think, a traditional enormous struggle for a lot of the weekend long tournaments. I mean, how many times at MLG has there been a sort of dark horse player who's not as popular making
Hmm.
his way through the lower brackets? And the first time you see him is when he's in the top six of Championship Sunday.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's
true.
it's no one's fault. It's just the way that it works when you have one stream that you can see all weekend long. So you can only show one series at a time all weekend long, but obviously multiple series are happening. And MLG does a good job covering those with 10 different streams. But what if I just didn't watch one of those other 10 streams and that's the first time? I
Yeah.
really am a huge fan of anticipation, and that's something that the league structure definitely brings.
Right. So what do you think about removing the season finals? Because I think your visa statement might have, well, your visa statement kind of includes that just some of the struggles that some of the players had, even trying to make the season finals, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, Jim, who qualified for
I
America.
know.
Ugh, well, Jim, yeah, we'll remember you, kind of, because, Bomber wants a bomber. Um, I truly don't know how I feel about it, because my gut instinct is, hooray, it solves a whole bunch of problems that were happening. That's like my immediate reaction. Um, let's take Duck Duck. Duck Duck won Europe season 2, and he
Yep.
cried. And let's be honest, if he didn't cry, what a disaster that would have been. Thank God he cried, right? We got to see that emotion. We got to see how much he cared. We got to. People always connect to someone who tries hard for something and succeeds and doesn't even know how to handle it. That's wow, what a wonderful story. And then he promptly gets knocked out at the season 2 championships shortly thereafter.
Hmm.
So his legacy's sort of forgotten. I want the story of Duck Duck to be longer than it was. It's increasingly hard to do that sort of rooting.
Yeah, but how much? I mean, that's true. I think the storylines would go on further, but I think a lot of that, what you're talking about, has to do with just consistency with the players too, and in the game. I mean, StarCraft 2, it's just hard to be consistent, right? And winning
Yeah.
and winning multiple championships, for instance, it's really hard to do. But one of the things that one of the reasons they made for possibly removing the finals is using, instead of bringing everybody together, all the great players, and playing each other in this kind of crazy single event at the end of each season, they kind of alluded to having the other tournaments facilitate that sort of, bringing the top players together. So like DreamHack and ESL and those standalone tournaments, or their own circuits, facilitating that, and not really have to do with the WCS. Still having points involved with those tournaments, but not having it just conclude in that fashion. And I think that's a good solution. I think including more tournaments is always good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. Like the I miss those old tournaments. That's what was great.
I do
about
too, man.
IEM weekend. I was like, oh, I'm just like I would go to lunch and come back and be like, oh, who's playing now? And then, I'd go run an errand and come back around dinner. I'm like, oh, who's playing now? And that sort of thing.
Yeah. Every weekend. On my phone. I mean, my phone was like dead by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Every single weekend. So, good stuff. But okay, well, let's wrap on the WCS. We got to have Eric talk here a little bit. I mean, Eric's been so quiet. It's just like Stark. I mean, gosh, guys, I've been busy with other stuff, guys. I haven't been able to watch the last couple of weeks. But okay, artillery games, guys. And this was the big news you guys announced several weeks ago. And I wanted to have you guys on a little bit earlier, but obviously scheduling is just crazy between all of us. So it's great to finally get you guys on. And I kind of want to rehash some of the news in case folks that are watching didn't get a chance to read all the PR releases and that sort of thing. So you guys are joining Artillery Games, or you joined Artillery Games. It's not this kind of partnership, or I think some people even think that, you guys are just going to kind of throw some feedback to Artillery, and they're going to be building some game, and it's just very high level kind of BS stuff. Talk to us exactly what the relationship or what you guys are in terms of Artillery Games.
Well, we work here in the office, and then while I leave to go do daily stuff, Eric continues to work here in the office, occasionally also doing a lot of the Day 9 related activities. So it's basically like we're Batman. We do game related stuff with Artillery in the morning, and then in the evening I sort of put on my pointy eared mask and do Day 9.
Okay, good. So Eric, you guys are official employees of Artillery Games. Is that correct?
That's right. So we're working in double shifts, running the Day 9 TV things, the after hours gaming things, and then everything in Artillery related to the game.
Okay, so what kind of things are you doing right now? Because I know, Sean, you're doing more of like game design and that sort of bit. But Eric, what kind of things are you doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
People are blown away that you speak, Eric. We haven't even given you a chance to.
Yes, I'm not just a statue. So I work. So right now it's kind of starting a long-term vision of where we'll be in a few months. So we're starting to work out partnerships, so people will want to be working with once we do have a game out there. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of my time actually has gone to the After Hours Gaming League. So I do, from the office, do a lot of work related to Day 9 and After Hours Gaming League. So for right now, that's taking up a lot of my time. In the long run, I'm the head of growth, I believe is the title. So I'll be in charge of growing the community. So getting the game out there to more people and increasing retention and those sorts of things. So
marketing for the head of growth.
So mostly marketing, yeah. So step one, make an amazing game, and then from there, look at how we can get the game out to more people, expand the reach, keep people excited about it over time and retention and that stuff. So that will be my role. So that'll pick up as we actually get into a beta.
Okay, and just to clarify, Sean, like what are some of the things that you're in charge of doing?
Design, obviously, continue to do the Day 9 related stuffs, but primarily working a lot with the team, talking about what the sort of planning, the scheduling would be for, developing a lot of this stuff. How long do we want to spend testing? What sort of new experiments do we want to be working on? How those experiments going to be run? What sort of feedback do we want from play testers actually running the play tests? It's a lot of the stuff that you would normally do with game design, but of course I I
Well,
know
it
many
sounds like you're
folks don't know
project
what's
managed.
involved with that.
You're doing a lot of project management too, on top of the design.
I would say that I work with someone who actually does project management because I think that obviously with my schedule, it's I think unintelligent to put me in charge of everyone's scheduling because I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna go stream Fez on Friday. Now everyone be
Right.
responsible and do stuff. Like
Right.
that's just poor communication. But the it's a really nice, fun sort of setup. And I kind of want to go in a little bit more of like the design process because
Yep.
I'd actually even throw this to the chat. Like when I say like I do game design, like what does that mean to you? Because Chris, I know you do game design,
Yep.
like working on that sort of stuff. And a lot of times people think that it's the equivalent of putting a post on Reddit where it's just like, what would be cool is if BioShock Infinite had more guns. That's the whole post. Like I'm a game designer, designing is really interesting process because with something like a book, I write a sentence and then I hand it to you, and when you read my book, you read the exact sentence that I wrote. So it's like 1-to-1. Or if I'm a director, whatever I put in the frame is exactly what you see in the frame when you go look at it. But with a game, I want to make fun. And I want to make what I think will create fun with rules. So I might say something like, oh yeah, I want to make a first-person shooter game that's super mobile, where everyone's there and darting around like the old Quake days, because that was awesome. So you make the game, and then you put it in front of play testers, and everyone just sits in corners, carefully waiting, because they sort of learned to play your game in a way that worked for them, but wasn't quite what you intended. So you have to do a lot of this. Here's our goal. Here's an implementation that we think will suit that goal. Test. And we sort of see how people play with it, and then we will adjust based on that, or maybe step back and reframe our goal and go down different experiment paths and do that sort of trajectory.
So who do you guys use for test subjects right now?
for test subjects.
I know you guys aren't bringing busloads of people into a white room, right? Like people envision in their heads. So, I mean, go ahead.
We have big vials of humans, and we should pull them out like lobsters. But generally, it's just a lot of industry professionals that we just know in the area. A lot of, the After Hours Gaming League we've been speaking to that, we've been friends with for a long time that live up here. There's really no special type of person that we want right now because it's important to kind of get that 360 view of how a human plays with your game as opposed to specifically targeting.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is because I know, at least in the mobile industry, that this whole concept of iterating and just like trying to get your game or your app perfect is kind of a thing of the past. Like what's really important now is just to release stuff. Just release it out to the ecosystem and then, iterate after that, right? Based on the feedback you get there. So I was just kind of wondering if that was kind of the case, because I know you guys are. I know you hate it when I call it a web-based game, so I'm not going to call it a web-based game. But you guys
call it whatever you want, but we'll fight. I will fight you on air, and Eric will silently back me up.
It is played on the browser, though. Okay, so it does kind of have more of this, multi-client type of feel to it, right? So, is it gonna? I mean, you guys going to adopt that kind of philosophy, or you want to come out with a perfect game right from the start?
I definitely don't want to do the sit and release a perfect game sort of thing. Actually, Eric, I'm sort of curious what your thoughts are on this because you keep talking over me, so I want to give you that chance.
Yes. I think it's much more in line with what Chris was saying with releasing it and seeing what kind of feedback we get. Because at the end of the day, you have so many people that can kind of come up with ideas, but when you have thousands or tens of thousands or more people playing your game, coming up with great ideas and kind of voting on each other, you create an awesome ecosystem that there's just no way to get that quality of feedback and ideas anywhere else than just launching and getting it from your community. So certainly once we're launched, we'll be taking a lot of feedback and seeing how things go and trying to roll with what people want to some extent.
We need a word that's between alpha and beta. Is
Yeah,
Google.
that's true.
That's the model that like we like, right? Because
Alpha.
an alpha game traditionally is a piece of dog shit. It's like polygons that don't have collision and move through each other, and everything's just white and gray. And a beta in the modern world is an exquisitely polished, finished product with some bugs. And there's not that thing in between, which is where you don't have a finished product.
You gotta call it Balfa. Balfa.
Yeah, like the Balfa. We want like
Damen coming with the new term today on the show, Balfa.
Balfa, dude. Yeah, we want that. We want to bring in a whole bunch of people and say, how do you play this? What do you like? What do you not like?
Right, exactly. But I mean, I'm glad you touched on the design. But let's get to design just a little bit more. I just want to finish off with a few questions just in regarding just y'all's setup. And Artillery is in the Bay Area, correct? And Sean, Eric, are you based in the Bay Area or not? You're based in the Bay Area, right?
Yeah, so I've been in San Jose for a while, and so the Artillery Games is based in Palo Alto, just out of downtown. So.
Okay, great. And Sean, so you're flying back and forth right now? Is that the deal?
Driving as well. Yeah.
Oh, driving! Wow. Okay.
I love driving. I'm not like I don't mean that like as a joke either. Like the 6-hour drive between San Francisco and LA is a very nice, relaxing thing. So.
Okay, cool. So that's every week right now, or is that just like maybe 2 weeks or a month, that type of thing?
The car spends about 2 weeks in San Francisco and 2 weeks in LA, and then I'm bouncing back and forth between them on planes.
Okay. Man, how do you do that, man? I don't know how you're doing that. Is that a long-term thing, or is this just kind of a makeshift until you settle maybe in the Bay Area?
I actually kind of like the split right now. I mean, I don't know if I'll be doing it for life, but it's not actually that uncommon. I mean, I have like a lot of really good connections and friends and people I interact with a lot in LA and in San Francisco, so I'll just do it all. Boom.
Boom.
Okay, I've also been getting a lot more opportunity to read comics on planes. I'm very excited about that.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. That's definitely nice. Your collection is probably incredible right now. Do you have shelves full of them? I've never seen your comic collection actually just outright, so...
Yeah, I mean, it's the problem is that like I have 2 full shelves and then like a pile, so I need to actually like redo the shelves so it's just exclusively comic-ish.
Right. Okay, cool. Okay, next question I want to ask you guys is Eric. I want to direct it towards you first. So why do all this? Like, why join Artillery Games? I mean, you guys got a good thing going with Day 9 TV, and you guys are just busy, period. I mean, with everything you guys do. So this is a big thing.
Yeah, honestly, I think this has been a long-term vision and plan that Sean and I have always wanted to have. So, everyone knows that, Sean has a long history in competitive gaming and is really passionate about it. I have a similar backstory. So when I was a kid, I grew up playing really competitive Magic the Gathering, and so that was a really important part of my childhood. And basically every major game I've picked up since then has been a competitive title. So I've always loved to be a gamer, and so designing a game I think is a natural fit with Day 9, and is something Sean and I have always been really passionate about. So that's really why I'm excited about this. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like we like games. We play games all the time. Eric's disappointed whenever he watches me play Magic because of his history. I try to play Magic like StarCraft. I try to approximate decisions and do them quickly, but that's a tangent for another day. I mean, I got into doing the webcast just because I liked talking about strategy and I liked working on the communication of the strategy and that sort of thing. And at that time I was designing games, platformers specifically, really fun physics-based platformers, and been doing the Day 9 TV thing for a while, and I've always really wanted to go back and to work on a game. And this was just like perfect. This is just a great opportunity because the artillery technology is actually unfair and impossible, and it exists. So it's really fun to be working on it like every day.
Well, people don't know that you actually have schooling in game design, correct? I mean, you went to...
Yeah.
What's your degree in?
Sorry.
Yes. Yes. No, what's What's your degree in?
MFA in interactive media.
There we go. There we go. I don't think a lot of people know that. But anyways, what were you saying, Eric? You were about to say something.
Oh, so I was just going to say, so another reason of the wire artillery question is really a perfect opportunity because we found a group of people that we really enjoy working with, think about gaming in the same way we do, and it's a sizable budget for the game, but we have a very direct role. It's not like we get a little bit of input here and there. Sean's really at the helm of designing the game, so all of that kind of lined up to really make it a super exciting opportunity for us.
Did y'all seek out artillery, or did they find you?
It was a mix. So, go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah, go ahead. I was about to be like, Eric, talk about the AHGL.
Oh. Yeah, so it's kind of in some ways, a byproduct of AHGL. So a lot of people at the company have been at companies that had AHGL teams. So the CEO, Ankur, was actually on the Season 1 AHGL StarCraft team. And so from there, we knew him. We had kind of worked with him, talked with him a whole bunch. So it was kind of, he just reached out to us when he was creating the company. He was like, hey, I know you guys are into StarCraft and you do these sorts of things. Here's what we're working on. And, because we had kind of worked with him in the past and knew him from that, it was just natural to talk there. So.
Okay, great. And so it just kind of organically happened from there. AHGL, man, creating opportunities. Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Great. So he started the company and then pulled you guys on shortly after? Is that how it worked? Or I thought Artillery had been around for a little while and then...
Yeah, so they've been around for a while. So he contacted us when they were first starting the company, so it had a slightly different vision back then. So at first the idea was to create a gaming platform. So create technology where any game developer can create a game in HTML5, which has a whole bunch of benefits, which we can talk about on kind of I assume a future question is going to be more about like why make a game in HTML5.
Right.
So we're making a game. Sorry, what was the question?
Just them starting the company, just the timing of when you guys joined versus when he started the company.
Right, yeah. So last year they were going to make this game platform company, so a lot of the technology is very platform-oriented. And then really when it started to make sense is when they decided to make a first-party game to launch the platform. And then it just really was obvious that where the interaction between us would make sense.
Gotcha. Sean, you had a comment, or...?
Oh, no. I didn't.
Okay. I thought you were trying to jump in there. Wasn't
Isn't that
sure.
totally odd?
Man, my transitions are awesome today. Awesome. Oh God. Okay, so that's really cool. It's what, 11 people there? It's a pretty small company right now, right? It's really cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. I think everybody that plays games at some point has dreamed of getting a chance to design a game. And it's really, really cool that you've gotten a chance to do that, myself included. Like I've obviously we've all been gamers for most of our lives, and it's always been a dream to be able to make a career out of gaming. You've been able to do that in other ways, but actually being able to create games and then even have people enjoy them and play them is, I think, is a pretty good dream to have as a gamer.
It's so convenient now in the modern space. I mean,
I
know that Artillery has built this amazing technology platform, but I mean, like with coding being easier to learn than ever, there's like so many online resources and all that stuff. I mean,
it's easier than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Easier than it's ever been. So yeah, I mean, you have kids making games now, like. My 9 or 10-year-old godson made an Android app, so it's like, wow, okay, that's pretty cool.
That's so good.
But so definitely a good time for game development and that sort of thing. But okay, let's move on to I guess the kind of games you guys are making. I know you can't talk specifically, so we'll talk kind of high level as much as we can.
Perfect.
So you're making a strategy game. Is it a MOBA or is it an RTS?
RTS, baby. I don't want to have one hero. I want to have units.
That's right. All right. Good. And Eric, you mentioned that the platform is going to be on HTML5, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'll talk a little bit about why HTML5 and the technology side of that. So there's a few exciting pieces. One is instead of downloading a custom client for the game, the client for the game is the browser, which pretty much everyone has installed on their computer already.
Yep.
So accessibility is a huge point. So being able to create a game, copy and paste a URL and send it to people via social media or via IM or text or something, and have any new player click on the game and have it automatically work in the browser with no downloads, no plugin installs, any of that kind of stuff. Just makes a game that's hyper accessible in a way that I haven't really seen before, outside of maybe the way Facebook games were. But nobody's ever done it with hardcore games. So that's an exciting piece of the technology in terms of sharing. In terms of developing, both the client and server side run on JavaScript, so you don't have to create two different kind of code bases in different languages like a lot of games do today. So it saves developer time as well. So we're hoping to be able to iterate much faster than other companies and have hyper shareability are two of the big reasons why HTML5.
Okay, any plans for any?
No way. We are still going to talk about how kick-ass the technology is to work in. Okay, so
keep going.
I'm about to totally have my real life nerdgasm here. That I know a lot of developers, maybe not even who work in games, but just who work with code bases in general, where you'll say something like, I'll do it for a game context, where I'm like, all right, man, here, I want to test this new build. I've exported all the files to this thing. Did you get them? Hold on, let me download, let me update them and sync them. All right, I'm good to go. All right, go. Wait, why is it not working? Wait, what version are you on? Oh, you're on the wrong version. Let's try to sync up to the same thing. It's like a real pain in the ass to shift stuff around like that. I mean, it's almost impossible to have remote workers in a lot of circumstances. I mean, especially if you're trying to put in new assets. But I mean, for me, when I'm like, hey, Eric, I want to test this new build, I paste him a URL link and he clicks it. And now we're playing. And that's it. So, I can go home and have freshly wiped, reformatted hard drive and just download Chrome, click the link, and all right, I'm playing again. So it's unbelievable to test it. It's so great. And that's going to be the exact sort of flow that a player has. He just clicks a link and ta-da, boom, you're playing.
So from the standpoint of it being comparable to a PC game, like some of the RTS games that we play every day, how does it compare to that? Because a lot of people think of web-based games as in Facebook games and comparable to mobile games, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So how does it compare to, just say, StarCraft? Like, is it from a graphics standpoint? Is it pretty similar?
Yeah, I mean, right now, to be able to iterate really quickly, we've stripped out all the art assets and kind of have that as a separate pipeline. So right now, in terms of the gameplay, in that sense, it's really no different, because how does StarCraft work? Well, you tell your units to move, and then they start to move on your screen, and it sends a signal to the server that also receives a signal from your opponent. And then the server is also sort of monitoring and makes sure that everything is aligned, and then reports back to both people what all the actual positions are and what everything is. I mean, otherwise you'd have what's called a desync, right, where I would think that my Marine got up the ramp before the depot lifted, and yours would think it was at the bottom of the ramp, and now we have the same Marine in two different places, and that doesn't work. That restriction is totally there in an RTS game. It's totally there in pretty much any multiplayer games. This is just sort of how multiplayer gaming kind of has to work. So that sort of lockstep architecture works totally great in the browser. Everything has the same sort of feel and look, and the tricky part is figuring out how to get that experience to you without having the big download. What traditional web games have done is they've just said, all right, well, screw it. We're just going to have really easy graphics that are really low, simple loading. Most of it's in a 360 by 240 window or 640 by 480 window, so it's not a big resolution. And that's really what makes the engineers so brilliant, is that they have sort of figured out how to do that.
Yeah, or you have a minute loading screen where they load in every single graphics before the thing actually starts. That's always a beautiful, beautiful experience too.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this particular game, have you taken into consideration esports at all? and
Sure.
any features like that? Or okay, you have?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. It's kind of hard for me not to think about it. It's like all I've done
True.
for like most of my adult life. Um, uh, yeah, Eric and I both kind of have pretty strong feels about this. That we love esports and we think that's really cool. And a lot of our angles come in from that sort of background.
Yeah.
Like just the idea of having a ladder, a place where people can prove themselves. That's fun. It doesn't even matter if there's an ecosystem or something like that. That competition is true to our hearts. I do think, though, that games are trying to push a little bit hard to be an esport first and not be a game that a lot of people like to play first. And that's where we are absolutely focused. We want to have a game where you can't wait to sit down and play it, which is kind of honestly where I am, because I just made a big change that I haven't gotten a test yet, so I can't wait to go back. And if that feel can translate, then yeah, great. Esports will sort of emerge naturally from that.
Okay, yeah, it's a question that I think everybody has to encounter that's developing a game. And Eric, you being head of growth, right? One of the things that people do in terms of game design, you take into account, is how marketable it can be. And sometimes it precedes actually whether it's fun or not, believe it or not, right? Because, it can be there's a lot of fun games, guys, like out there in the ecosystem right now, and nobody plays them because nobody knows anything about them because they're impossible to market. So how much of that do you take into account, Eric, being head of growth?
I mean, that's a really important question. The first thing with the game, as Sean was saying, is the game has to be fun. Esports is something where you can design some elements in so that in the long term, when you have users, the ecosystem will naturally build and support all the different pieces that are part of esports. But at first, you just have a fun game. And it's, as you say, there's a lot of games that are actually fun that just don't, for a variety of reasons, usually marketing of some sort. So I'll definitely be looking at marketing and that kind of thing, but we also have kind of the benefit where Day9 TV has a large user base, so we don't have the problem of nobody knowing about our fun game. So from the start, we can seed it with a bunch of players. So some of that's solved for us, which makes my job easier.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like esports is even sort of along a natural line.
Yeah.
We can bring in the day nights to hang out and play the game and let us know the ways that they are using it naturally and the ways that they want to be using it. And that can very easily direct where our efforts and where our time is put. And esports is totally along that line. I mean, there's all the sort of basic features that you want, but let's say there's like some really crazy advanced stuff that like no one's ever thought of that everyone's really excited about and they really want. Perfect. We totally have the setup to be able to do that.
Yeah, esports, we're seeing with a lot of the other publishers, I feel like is that kind of niche that they're trying to use as, a place to get your game jump started. Because again, like if you're just going for strictly fun and marketing from that standpoint, I mean, you're competing against a lot of games. So I think, eventually esports, I think will start to become even more mainstream, and every publisher, which we're kind of getting to that point, will be considering it and adding features like that, and then even marketing in that way. But I mean, do you guys see esports as being more of a marketing kind of feature right now for games?
Yeah, I think that's a reason that a lot of publishers are really trying to figure it out. Is they see it as a modern way of marketing, where if you succeed, you have a really passionate community marketing the game for you. So it's a lot less expensive and a lot more natural and kind of real for the community to have users talking to each other rather than trying to send pre-roll advertisements or banner advertisements. So for the companies who can figure out how to actually make it work, it's a really important marketing tool that I think is very modern and new. It's very hard too. It's a very challenging aspect to get right.
It also, I think, it is. I mean, marketing, I think, is the obvious sort of. Well, let me use more specific words. Acquisition, I think, is the way a lot of people are viewing esports. If I make a big enough event and a non-player sees it, ooh, how compelled he'll be to step in because he sees the starry lights. I think as many people are starting to learn, games are much more of a service than a product. And I view esports definitely more along the service side of things, along the, hey, you've been playing this game for a year. It's not just a thing that you bought that you do every now and again. It's a hobby. So let's make your hobby more fun. Let's put that into there. And then all of a sudden it's a more engaging experience where I can hop on and play some games of Project Atlas, and then I'll relax on the weekend watching the huge tournament that I'll see a sweet strategy happen and that will make me want to go back and try it out in Project Atlas, because there's much more of a close tie between audience and player in the esports sense than in the traditional sports sense, where if I see a sweet tennis move, I'm still never going to go to tennis court ever in my life. But with the game, great, yeah, I can hop into that. So it's a lot of, I think what Eric said was like really spot on, that it's natural. We're like, you don't cram esports down someone's throat. You're going to find this awesome. You make it because it's natural to find it awesome, and they really enjoy it. So you go, oh, if you want it, cool, I'll help make that happen.
Yeah, very good point. So let's get back to, I think, let's get a little bit more back to the designing of the actual game. Just what you guys think are good attributes of a strategy game. And we don't have to go in specifically into your game, but just generally, what do you think has to be there, and maybe some things that a lot of people haven't thought about, because a lot of people are going to say, I think, a lot of common things, but what are some things that you think are uncommon things about what a strategy game should have?
Yeah, so of course we're going to preface all this by telling you we're going to keep all the specifics secret. But definitely in terms of the process, first we got to define what an RTS really is, and what that means. So you collect money, you build a base and climb up a tech tree to get all sorts of fancy units to go battle with your enemy. I feel like these are like really the core tenets of what makes an RTS an RTS. You think about, what if you removed the base and the resource collection? You would call that a tactical game. You'd have something like Fallout Tactics, or maybe RPG like old tactical games like Shining Force stuff. If you remove the battling and the army building, then okay, we have a city building sim. And we sort of think that that those four make sense to us. And now we actually get to sort of experiment with what that can mean, because I feel like almost all games have, especially in the RTS genre, have been pretty by the book with, for instance, resource collection. StarCraft versus Command and Conquer in the early days were still pretty similar. You had one Tiberium harvester and a field of Tiberium that was kind of far away. StarCraft has little workers, and you have lots of them, and they're much closer. So you have more clear definition of what a base means. I feel like Dawn of War, for instance, was one of the first games to really kind of experiment with what that means by having like tactical control points sort of spread out along the map that your units captured. Oh, well, that's sort of funky. So to sort of begin the discussion, I'll say that those are like those four things we feel like do define an RTS game, and we sort of experiment with all that sort of what that means.
Okay. What do you... see, how do I word this? Try to word it really nicely, being as nice as possible.
All right, come on.
I'll start with, okay, so I won't talk about StarCraft 2. I'll talk about Brood War, okay? What is one thing that you wish was different about Brood War in terms of those four things?
I would say that we feel like in these four things, like these sort of have to be there in some way, shape, or form, but definitely identifying a lot of problems that people feel. One is just like getting people to get out there and to battle and to engage and to interact, because what makes games interesting is interaction. Like, I'll take Street Fighter 4, right? Okay, so you can be like my brother and play a really cheesy Blanca, and that's really interesting to play really cheesy Blanca against a really passive defensive Ryu or a really, really aggressive M. Bison. Like, these are going to result in extremely different experiences purely by virtue of the fact that you're interacting with the other person. Yeah. So how do you encourage players to interact more in an RTS game, where if you look at what people tend to do they tend to just sit back and hub and turtle and sit quietly to themselves. How do you compel them to go out there and get into the action?
Mm-hmm. Right. What about you,
So-
Eric? Go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
Eric.
Eric, please, Eric.
So wait, what was the exact question again?
Well, I mean, for you, from
Yeah.
maybe from a more analytical standpoint, what do you think are features of an RTS game that you think is necessary to have in a game that you're building?
Let's see. What are some important things? I completely agree with Sean on the interaction. That that user interaction is an experience that's constantly new and keeps the game fresh. And not just like something where you do the same thing every game, because you always have to interact. Creates new content. What else? I think pairing information with decisions is really important. So not overloading a user with all kinds of information that's not relevant, and just making sure that people have information in a specific area at a specific time when they can make an active decision on it, that kind of stuff.
Right.
That's interesting. I haven't thought too much on the game design stuff. I'll mostly leave that to Sean.
Yeah. I figured so. I just was wondering if you had just some input on it. So I'm gonna this is the next part. I'm gonna do is I'm gonna name a few games, and you tell me the best parts of those games or why these games are so fun.
Ooh, nice.
And
Okay,
you gotta pick. You gotta try to pinpoint one thing that you can say. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with. Let's start off with League of Legends.
Great. I think it's great because it parcels out your learning in small chunks. I think that's the greatest aspect of the game. You start off hero and you get to choose one ability, and you get to sort of feel what that ability is like for a little bit, and then you level up, and maybe you want to improve your one ability, or you want to do a different ability, and you get to learn that a little bit. And then, as you get better and better at the game and learn more, then you can step into a different hero, and you have that same little experience. And then you can start to step into the items, and you're never really forced to know how a whole bunch of stuff works to begin playing. There's a lot to learn, but there's not a lot to be taught to play.
Eric, how about you?
So for League of Legends, I think for me, it's just how fundamentally fun it is to be in lane poking someone. So like just exchanging abilities, throwing things back and forth. It's kind of this win-win scenario where in a competitive game, one player wins and one player loses ultimately. But in the laning phase, like even if you're poking back and forth, for me personally, it feels fun like I'm winning, even if it's trading evenly. There's some magic there of just it feels exciting to push buttons and deal some damage. So
Okay.
that core feature.
All right, next game we'll choose. I don't feel like choosing StarCraft quite yet. Let's go with a shooter like Call of Duty or CS:GO. Just let's say Call of Duty for now, just because it's a console game.
All right. This is going to sound unfair and like I'm copping out. But don't worry, because I've got a justification.
All right.
Pointing the gun at someone and shooting them.
Oh shit.
Okay?
Oh
Like,
boy.
that act of aiming, bam, and then you get the reward, like that's I think the equivalent of like shooting a shot in basketball. Imagine there's no one on the court in basketball, there's nothing going on, I just hand you a ball, and I say go make a basket. That's fun! That's a little tiny atomic activity that's really fun, because it's difficult. I mean, like, aiming your mouse very quickly in a spot, at a target and trying to hit it, is really fun. I mean, like, we can remove the human element of it to make it a non-violent thing and just say targets. If a target popped up and you knew that if you didn't shoot it in 1 second, it would say game over. It's fun to just bam and nail the target. You're like, yeah! And this is why I think the entire shooter genre is so successful, because that little atomic activity kicks ass.
Yep, I absolutely agree with that. Eric, what do you think?
So I haven't played a lot of Call of Duty, but in head game or in first-person shooters in general, the headshot. So it's basically, I mean, similar to what John was saying, just like that high variance skill shot that you just sometimes you hit, sometimes you don't, and it's always super exciting and adrenaline filled. So it's just like the level of adrenaline you get and excitement you get over this one small action that generates this huge effect. It's kind of really concentrated.
Yeah. Okay, next genre, we're going to go for fighters, the fighting game community. So let's just pick the standard Street Fighter. What particular aspect of Street Fighter do you think is the key to its success?
I'm going to go with the fact that no matter what your health is at, you're not going to be playing worse. You don't have your ability taken away. I'll use StarCraft as an analogy. If you have lost all but 4 workers, you can't do things. You can't build a huge army. You probably can't go upgrade and make defense at the same time. But if you have a sliver of health in Street Fighter, you can still do all the combos that you want to do. You can still do just as much damage as you could do when you're at full health. So you can always come back, even though you have a sliver of health.
Yeah, that's a good point. Eric?
So I would put it as how much fun the natural learning process is. So as someone who would still categorize myself as a button masher, the fact that I can push a bunch of buttons and see things happen and kind of learn what caused it without having any idea how to play the game or having read any guides, just that learning process of magical things happening and then trying to figure out why is why I've liked to explore fighting games.
All right, good stuff. All right, we'll finish off the segment with StarCraft 2, of course. Why is StarCraft 2? Well, I think it's safe to say that you guys love StarCraft 2 above all things, or at least the RTS genre. So what is it about?
Say that.
What is it about StarCraft 2 that's made it so successful?
I mean, honestly, I think that it's... Wow, for some reason that's like the hard one. Why do I like... I think it's the idea that a very small set of things are each individually very simple, but interact in really, really crazy, complicated ways. So I can watch the same 13 units for 3 different races battle against each other for 4 years, and I'm still excited to do tonight's show, right? Like that's what's cool to me, is that like how digestible and simple each little piece is.
Okay, Eric?
So for me, it really engages my learning how to learn part of my personality. So the fact that after playing however many years, I can always watch a replay of mine, see something I suck at, practice it, and then hop on and see that I got better time after time, and there's like an infinite space of things to get better at. That's a fun... It's like learning something new that I can just go to and improve and feel the rewards of that improvement.
Okay, good stuff. All right. Good job on that little lightning round we did there with the games. But to close off this segment,
that was cool.
Yeah,
You're a cool guy.
actually, I wasn't even planning it. I just kind of decided to do it out of nowhere. That's
nice.
That's what you do, Sean, man. Just creative. But last, I just kind of want to close off this segment with game design with. Are there any modern gaming trends that you've noticed in the last, I don't know, year and a half, that you feel like are, the beginnings of maybe a new genre or just something like just very innovative features or just even a complete design?
Oh, I was not. For some reason, I thought you were going to say like trends that are just weird or surprising. Because
we could do that too. Just either is fine.
Cards. Games that
cards, baby.
Introduce cards. And
cards.
Okay, so like I understand the idea of like splitting things up sort of mentally. Like I remember the old Rainbow Six games, where you'd like choose like 4 guys, you'd plan your little route out, and you go like, that's great. But I'm talking like first-person shooter where you come out of a corner and then you look at your deck of cards that's next to your gun and you like play the ammo card. You shoot like, there's a lot of games coming out with that I think that there's some great exploration in there. Like Dominion or Ascension or Hearthstone.
Yeah. Like
these brilliant, really modern card games. There's a lot of games that just shove cards into it.
Okay, I wasn't thinking of that. I wasn't thinking of actual like shooters that shove cards into it. Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
That's an exaggerated example, but there's many games that like
5-3 card game.
So we introduced card mechanic, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Eric, how about you? Any trends?
So the trends I would all throw together are, one is like accessibility. Instead of having to go to a store and buy the game, you can now download them, and our technology is taking that a step further, where it should be a near instant play, where you send a URL and it's not even overnight download anymore. It's a play before you really notice it's loaded. Throwing that with the change from having to pay for games in advance, or pay a full price for a game in advance, versus pay as you go and pay as you're engaged with the game, and based on how much you like it and how much time you're sinking into it. So that, and then the third one, I forget what I was going to say. But even those two kind of go together. So like having it, basically it just goes down to accessibility. And then esports, I guess that was the third one. So those three things I think are lining up now, and I think they actually work very well together, feed each other.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, why don't we wrap that segment, and why don't we take a quick break, and we'll bring on Damen for some After Hours Gaming League talk, and then we'll do some questions with you guys. And again, if you guys have any questions for us, post them here on the Reddit thread in the comments, and we will try to get to as many as we can. So we'll be right back, guys. See you in a second.